The Bible is full of stories of God's miraculous power. But what if there's more? Miracles that history has all but forgotten. Here are 3 amazing miracles of divine protection and victory as recorded in the ancient Book of Jasher that you may not have heard before. Our first miracle takes place early in Abraham's life. In the Bible, we read that Abraham was called by God, but the Book of Jasher offers more details about the trials he faced before becoming the father of nations. In his youth, Abraham lived in a culture of idol worship, with his own father Terah making idols for a living. But Abraham, filled with conviction, knew these false gods held no power. In the Book of Jasher, we're told that Abraham smashed his father's idols, declaring that only the true God of heaven was worthy of worship. This act of defiance angered the people and their ruler, King Nimrod. As punishment, Nimrod ordered that Abraham be thrown into a fiery furnace, a fate no one could survive. But the flames did not touch him. The Book of Jasher records, "And the Lord loved him, and he delivered him from the furnace of fire, and he was not burned. Abraham walked out of the furnace unharmed, leaving the people astonished." The very fire meant to consume him became a testimony of God's protection over those who are faithful. This powerful miracle reminds us that when we stand firm in our faith, no trial, no matter how overwhelming, can harm us if God is with us. Just as God shielded Abraham from the flames, He stands ready to protect us when we trust in Him. The second miracle takes place during Joseph's life, a man whose story is filled with betrayal, hardship, and triumph. The Bible tells us of Joseph's sale into slavery by his brothers, but the Book of Jasher reveals more about what happened during Joseph's captivity. After being sold by his brothers, Joseph was bound and taken by the Ishmaelites. In the Book of Jasher, it is recorded that Joseph's captors tried to bind him with chains, but each time they did, something miraculous happened. The chains would fall from his hands and feet, and Joseph would stand free. The Ishmaelites were confused, and no matter how tightly they tried to bind him, the chains continued to break loose. It was clear that God's presence was with Joseph even in the darkest of circumstances. The Book of Jasher states, "No man could bind him, for the Lord was with him." Joseph's miraculous escape from his chains reminds us that no matter how trapped we may feel, whether by our circumstances, our fears, or our burdens, God has the power to break the chains that bind us. Just as He protected Joseph, God watches over us and is able to set us free from whatever holds us captive. Our final miracle takes place during one of Israel's most significant battles. Under Joshua's leadership, the Israelites were engaged in a fierce battle with the Amorite kings. The Bible tells us that Joshua led his army to victory. But the Book of Jasher adds a powerful detail to this moment of triumph. As the battle raged, the Amorite king's armies appeared unstoppable. But then, according to the Book of Jasher, the skies darkened and God intervened in a miraculous way. Hailstones, massive, deadly stones, began to rain down from the heavens, striking only the Amorite armies. The Israelites, untouched by the hail, continued their advance as God Himself fought for His people. This divine intervention ensured the victory for Joshua and the Israelites. The hailstones did what human hands could not. God used the very elements of nature to secure the defeat of Israel's enemies. The Book of Jasher describes this moment as one of the undeniable proofs that God was on their side. This miracle demonstrates that God can use any part of His creation to achieve His purposes. The forces of nature are at His command, and when His people are in need, He can provide victory in ways far beyond human understanding. Just as He fought for Israel, He fights for us today. As we reflect on these incredible moments of faith and power, may we be reminded that the same God who worked these miracles in the past is still with us today. His power is limitless, and His care for His people endures forever.